be in a rural county,
Yes, ma'am.
where people at least care about other people and their animals. We'll go to item number 8 to discuss funding agreement between the Texas Historical Commission of Freestone County for round 13 of the Historical Courthouse Preservation Program. And possibly these will be all discussed at the same time about the easement. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the funding agreement. Would you like to tell us a little bit about kind of where we are?
This week I'm working on getting those complete by the deadline. I think it was to be Friday was the deadline for those two.
And this is for completing
The funding agreement and the granted easement attachments. We are, as architects, we are required to do attachment B, C, and D, which is the project cost statement,
Yes.
the scope of the work, and the project schedule.
Mhm.
So Sterling is right now at the office working on the project schedule. So that's where he's at right now. And then the granted easement has attachments A, B, and C. I'm waiting on getting the survey from you on
He
the.
has been here and done the actual site work, and so hopefully we'll get that.
Yeah, so that's the part I need is attachment, or attachment A, is
Yes.
the legal description and your meets and bounds. And the,
When we leave here, we'll go over and I'll call and see when they're out. That was last week.
and then attachment B on the granted easement is the initial property condition, where it's basically kind of like where I go through like all the different elements and like it's a good condition, poor condition, etc. And then attachment C is scope of work, which is basically kind of like a repeat of the attachment C of the funding agreement. But that's my job for this week, and I'll get those and send to you to turn into teach.
We will call him and see if we can get that. Is there anything else that we need to do to you?
I don't think so. Maybe the survey is the thing I'm waiting on.
Okay. Would you like to make a statement, or do you want to wait and just have questions? We've kind of gone over all of this, so you just want.
I can just say that we're looking forward to working with Scott, and I will answer questions.
Okay, all right. I know we had gone through this, and we had talked about those 3 things that we didn't have yet, and so those should be what we completed this week.
And if we do fall behind, we will let you know, so you all can ask for an extension if y'all need it.
Okay.
But I have all that information. I should in these few days.
I think one of the big concerns was if we go over what had been awarded. And we talked with I can't remember the gentleman's name. It was
James.
James.
Milana,
Had stated, if you can reiterate, but he said something about over the last couple of years, counties that did this and it went over the original project estimate, that if the county in a timely fashion, and it wasn't due to a bunch of change orders that the county decided to do on their own, that the over and above amount was matched at, in our case, would be an 88% with a proper request through the historical commission. Is that correct?
That is correct. If it's done in a timely manner, if it's genuine discovery, and not a scope change, we want a higher level of finish than we thought about before, or, we're replacing like for like, and, if sometimes you open up a wall and you see something.
It's unforeseen
Yeah,
things that we come.
that's exactly right. So, in that case, yes, supplemental funding would be available.
And also, we talked about it that day, the fact that since we did our original application, that everything is so much higher now than we are anticipating that it's going to be.
That's what's got us concerned.
Yeah, I overfigured.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same spot. We're kind of wanting to see what happens, and we may have to do a some kind of quick thinking and see if we can award more, if prices across the board, it's not regional, it's national, we'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, I can't say that we have a plan yet because it's no new thing.
Let me ask you a question. Are these funds, y'all have funds available for this, or is that from year to year, y'all are awarded funds historically for these? And I didn't know whether y'all had a fund, you're gonna wait for next year to see what's funded, if we go over. I mean, I'm just wondering where that money comes from.
It comes from the legislature and.
Because there's $100 million right now
Yeah.
on the Senate bill for restoration,
Right.
which is bigger than it's ever been.
Yes.
That's up from 50 million
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that when we would do supplemental funding, we would be borrowing from that.
Okay, I mean, I just wondered how complicated it was on y'all's end for those funds.
Now, I mean, whatever courthouse we're working on is our priority.
Okay,
It has more priority than a speculative.
how many do y'all have in the works at one time? Any given, I mean, I know it would vary, but.
Probably, I can't say exactly, but they're different, a full restoration is what you're doing.
They're all in different stages, I'm sure. but
Yes, we
it's
have-
when they started.
Like Lee County's been going on for 10 years, and it's an emergency with stabilization and then plaster repair has been just like a hospital patient. And it's been getting funding on an emergency basis. Wise County is wrapping up its full restoration, so, you're a brand new one, and Kimball County will be a brand new one. So we have two full restorations going on that I think better and my responsibility. And Gonzalez has finished their master planning and is going into restoration. So that's probably, I think 3 is it for full restoration.
I was just curious, the scope of things with y'all.
Was any of y'all over the restoration of the Bear County Courthouse?
The viral?
Yes, ma'am.
No, not currently.
Not current, I mean, when they had it about a few years back when they redid it.
Okay.
Were you on there?
No, I started last November. I guess that would have been James. Is it near here?
Maybe.
It would have been James, that's
About 40
what.
miles.
I think
Yeah,
it's
35 miles,
Yeah.
about 45. It joins our county out here, and they had theirs redone. And there was some concerns from people that I know from up there that they went way over the cost. So if the county had to get a bond to get some money, and then they had to get another small grant or something, and they went way over what they were supposed to. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a case by case to see why, and they did, I would think it was justified to, but like structural problems are very expensive. MEP is very expensive, like for your mechanical system, which I mentioned.
Well, they also, Track County, they had relocated their elevator. Which was a big cost.
We're not anticipating to do that.
Thank you.
James had stated more likely we would need a new box,
A
Maybe.
cab?
cab.
As far as funding, I know Angela, you also were at the meeting where it was, where ours was approved.
Yes.
And there were other people there. You want to tell us a little bit about that? They were asking for extra money.
Your Honor, Commissioners. Yes, Angela and I attended the state meeting of the Texas Historical Commission with our architect, and there were courthouses that were applying for additional grants that did have cost overruns. And the response from the Texas Historical Commission was they were prepared to make those grants because there was still quite a bit of funding available for those purposes for the restoration of courthouses. Angela, anything you'd like to add to that observation?
I'm in agreement with that. I mean, they were very open to helping the counties that still needed the funding. Back in January, that's what I saw. They actually helped 2 counties that came back. One of them was because their contingency account had gotten below what it needed to be. And so the commission voted to help them in that area. get that contingency back up. Now, the percentage was not what the original grant was, but it was money that the PHC did allow the county to use to help them in that circumstance. So, thank you.
Were there any there that asked for money that didn't get it?
I went to the architectural committee meeting also, and because Van Zant did return their grant, that committee decided because we were shovel ready and they wanted to focus on full restorations. That's why we were chosen. But yes, ma'am, there were a few other counties when they heard that the grant had been returned that had applied. But
But they were
because,
applying, it wasn't somebody that just needed more money.
I don't remember that, Judge Grant.
Okay.
But I do know what really got us over the hurdle was that we were shovel ready. That's what they kept saying. We were shovel ready. And to be accepted in the first round, oh my goodness, that is phenomenal. I'm telling you. Most counties do not get accepted in the first round. So I think that is due to our plan, the master plan. And so thank y'all for having the foresight to put that money forward, because I know that was not cheap. And we could have gotten a grant to work on that too. But I really appreciate that y'all had that vision. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here today.
You know, we all want this, but we're signing on to this for the taxpayer. I mean, we want to make sure we're not, you know, putting the taxpayers, like, and I don't know who in the room can answer this, but like, the county shall be responsible for funding any non-program eligible costs associated with the project. I mean, I almost wish what the definition of that would be. I know it said, it goes on to say cost overruns in excess of estimate operating maintenance expenses, but I'm just curious if there's historic, what could that be? I mean, is that a valid question?
That's on page 2.
Page 2, yeah, 404.04. I mean, what does that?
Non-program eligible, something that,
That is eligible if you're on, things like security
Okay.
and MEP are not restoration work, but it is eligible because of life safety, you know, the comfort so you can inhabit the building and have people here. So and we've had a lot of security expenses recently. And just so you know, we do have a consultant with the state who is willing to consult with you, review the plans, and give you security recommendations. His name escapes me right now, but things like that.
Okay, I'm just curious what that could be. Well, I mean, you know, because we're getting hooked up here, we want to make
Right.
sure, you know.
everything that we have in our application is eligible, is that correct?
Okay.
And the numbers that when we were cooking them up for the application, I was basing them off of kind of what information I had on Lynn County's courthouse. And, you know, they were a lot higher because they were doing a full square restoration and their courtroom and building a whole new elevator and everything. But so I almost requested like that much money. That was for 2019 dollars right there. But I mean, we were kind of like a little bit below where they were, and they were doing a lot more work than what we're doing. So they were like a 8 or 9 million grant on theirs.
So these are fairly close.
Those were fairly close from what we were trying to estimate, with like trying to like subtract that and then trying to account for inflation. So, but you know, for the volatility of the past few years, you know, that's what we did. And like also, like, we were basing it off of kind of our numbers from the master plan, and that total's about the same, but that master plan total was like including site work and demolishing those 2 buildings, and we're not doing that. We didn't put that in the request. So it's like, oh, those are about the same numbers. Yeah, but that's because of inflation. It's
Yes.
you know, it's higher now.
So we have some more inflation built in. But
Yes.
still, we are anticipating
Mhm.
it's going to be
And
more.
it's really gonna be contingent on when we get bids from a
Yes.
contractor to get hard numbers.
And Your Honor, I'd like to add that I am going to ask in-house, at our in-house meeting about this particular issue, because I think it's really relevant right now, and what the response is to, I'm talking about tariffs. About potential cost overruns or just kind of runaway inflation, runaway escalation. We need to think about the response to that.
I know James had kind of talked about that a little when he was here too,
Uh-huh.
because of the ability to request.
Right, that might be the answer, is that there'll be supplemental funding. I don't think there would be like maybe delays or anything like that. It just depends on what we're facing. And I'll try to get more information on that, because I think that's critical at this point.
I have a question. We have some structural people here today? Yes. Does anybody have a question for them? I know that, did y'all come and look whenever we were doing the application?
We did.
And you did find some things that needed,
We found a few things. I mean, obviously we found the column in the basement and some structural work overhead there. We found several areas that will need to be further investigated as part of the construction, because we can't really tell exactly what's there without doing some demolition. So, for instance, there's an area over here where the plan seemed to have shown a column that's missing on 2 floors. Either that got taken out.
I think the one in the court, and the other one just, I don't think it's ever existed. Because like, I put it on, I think it existed on Lynn counties, but in all like our previous renovation plans, I looked over like 5 different sets of plans through the years, how this courthouse has evolved. I don't think it was ever there.
If it was there and got taken out, then there should have been some modification made. There would have had to have been some modification made, given the span that it would have gone without it. But we have in the plans noted during the actual work to verify, and we'll have to come back and look at it and make sure that it's sound.
Did you have to look at the wall and the bathroom downstairs?
We have a note on that. We're asking they're gonna have to do some excavation outside to look and see, and there may be some waterproofing and reworking of masonry that needs to be done in that area.
I think the main structural things that we were pointing out, like was, of course, that column.
Yeah.
That's the main concern for me, because it's such
in the
a
basement.
bad
It's
condition.
missing.
And then just, even though it doesn't seem to have any detrimental effect on the building currently, it's these porches that have these metal beams that are kind of bowed downward, and it seems to be a consistent thing across all 3 of these courthouses that are identical. And like Lynn County were concerned about theirs, and they actually stuck a metal column before they ever did straighten, and then they did straighten it out. But from all historical photographs of this courthouse, it's always had this little deflection to it.
Yeah, even the old photographs, it appears it was there. And if you look at the masonry joints, they're straight. There's just a big, wide mortar joint at the bottom, so we're not exactly sure what happened when, but that's another one we have a note on for them to remove enough bricks that we can actually tell what's spanning across there and holding everything up, and make sure that the lintel and whatever's in there is not corroded or deteriorating. But it doesn't appear that it's moving. The masonry doesn't crack or unless it's been repaired in the past.
Excuse me. Were you aware about the time that the corner of the courthouse went down, and so they had to go down and dig out the corner over there and do a whole bunch of stuff to it? I'm not sure what all they did with the treasurer's office over there, when they dug the big hole over there, when the water ran down in there.
They were putting in a sump pump to alleviate that.
From the water running in there.
I didn't have any information on that.
We did have, and I think we talked about that, at one time, all the tile right in that foyer there raised up.
Raised up.
Yeah.
Okay. that would have been some swelling.
Mhm.
It still has a different sound.
Hollow, yeah.
Tap on it right now. on that front door.
Yeah.
I think Lord had a question about the insurance
Well,
increase.
yeah, I would think that replacement cost from an insurance company, regardless if the courthouse was restored or not, is it typical for your insurance to go up after a restoration?
For me, I'm not the one to answer that question.
We would have to be.
I think
I would say yes, but
Because we'd have to have different insurance to cover, because we've got to comply, if we have damage from a storm, we've got to put it back to meet historical.
Yes.
I mean, we can't just.
yeah.
Karen just
So-
talked to them about that already, about our insurance people.
Does your insurance already cover like for like replacement?
We do not currently have the historical replacement insurance. We just have regular insurance on the
Okay.
courthouse and then the contents. So, you know, they've got a value on, right now, and I don't know how the appraisal is, but I don't think it's that old, but just a regular value of like 6.6 million. And then they've got 2.2 on the contents. But she said they do have a replacement, a historical replacement value amount. She said they did. They always put one on there, and it's 31 million and something. And so, but they're working on our property renewal right now, and they're gonna give us a regular, you know, because it cost us $18,000 a year for insurance just on the 8 point whatever million. But she said she would get us a cost on both.
Pardon me, Your Honor, I would like to speak to that anecdotally on a much smaller scale. After just having completed a full structural restoration on my residence, the Philadelphia fire and insurance, I have replacement value on that structure, and they said after that level of restoration, that the property is basically viewed as new construction, and it drastically reduced the amount of rates, even though the value of the structure went up exponentially, but the insurance costs went down.
And I don't know that, you know, if they're supposed to be getting that to me, so I you know, she said this week
Increase in value,
we would have
Yeah.
that, but
the number she.
I would also say you
And we're just concerned because, well, with the funding agreement, it's 20 years past final funding, but the easement is in perpetuity. So we're signing the people on from here on. So that's where we're concerned,
that is a valid concern, and I would say that historic courthouses vary widely. And this one is, you know, you have masonry of brick and cast stone, and some of the others have terracotta and pecos red and all of these Indiana limestone on the steps, and so that cost is much more than this one would. So I would hope that it's not just a fixed amount, that they would customize it for you and also give you some credit for having new materials that aren't going to fail. They have a life, you know, you're resetting the clock. And I'm just reasoning through it, but I can give you a more, an agency answer.
well, like I say, we're signing on, and perpetuity is a big word for me.
You're right, and I understand the urgency of getting your answers for you.
Yeah.
On a timeline wise, as far as in comparison to Lynn County, again, hoping that the elevator's fine and all that, but, how long a period should we expect to have our people displaced out of this building?
You know, I know, because I'm really doing the schedule, and I'll kind of go over it with him, so, about how to really phase this. I mean, we'll try to do exterior first, so that keeps you in the building as long as possible before we ever do interior. So try to solve all of your exterior problems with the windows and all that, but, you know, we'll still be working in the building. It's going to be when we're doing the work on the 4th and 1st floors is gonna do, like, because it's like, that's for me looking at architecturally is like the where most of the work is done, but there's also gonna be MEP is gonna be totally redone, so I don't know how that affects throughout the building and whether that would have to like, necessarily, everyone has to vacate the building until that work is finished. Or
That was another question. Will there be a point in time where no one's in the building? James had made a comment that if we don't restrict the contractor to working on one floor at a time, that it would be a lot cheaper. So I would think that once, I'm curious to see the contractor's bids and how they bid, because I can see, if I'm put myself in the contractor's shoes, the person's place that I'm working on, they're not allowing me to do my work the way I bid it, then I'm gonna cost more. I'm sure there's language in that quote that's gonna state that. Well, again, we don't want to be in anybody's way, but it's a big deal to pre-plan on where we're going to have people in office at. Even if we're just looking at the first floor and the fourth floor, and I'd love to be able to see the work go on simultaneously on the inside. But again, finding a place for them and locking down some type of lease or whatever it may be, and how long would that need to be for? Because whoever we're dealing with is going to ask us that question. We don't know the answer.
So from an MEP side, we are doing a whole new electrical service. So we're going to be replacing all of the gear. It's all old stuff down in the basement. We're going to be pulling all that out and putting a whole new gear in. So that the new gear could be done at the same time as keeping your existing gear up and running, but you are going to have a point in time when we will have to shut down the entire courthouse to do that, and that's going to be more of a contractor. In my mind, 3 to 4 weeks for that period to happen. Past that, we are getting a new outside air unit on the roof, and in order to produce the outside air to each one of your spaces, we're going to have to get that duct down from the roof down to the basement. So it's really hard for us to phase that.
Right, exactly. And that's what I was assuming.
Yeah.
When it said that some of these outside sitting on the ground units may go away.
They are all going. For the most, we're going to keep a few, but a lot of them are going away.
Yeah.
So.
What about, is there any asbestos anywhere? Has anybody done an asbestos test to see if there's any asbestos anywhere in here? And if so, I know from dealing with asbestos before, they've had to shut the whole building down or close off where nobody can get there, run ducts under there, guys gotta wear suits. I mean, my question is, do we know if there's any asbestos in this building anywhere from the bottom floor to the top?
I mean, we haven't done, past projects we've done on this courthouse, when there was a partial asbestos report for when we did the courtroom above us. And they did something, like, there's not a ton of asbestos in it, but it is on kind of renovations that happened mid-century, a lot of wood paneling and stuff like that was the mastic, you know, and was tested positive for asbestos.
Hey, what's the threshold? 3%? Because I just went through that on some property.
Well, we went through it in school, and I think.
Remediation, it was 1% off, and it was still required, but if you removed it, you know, it was full remediation.
Well, when that happened, I mean, it was like that courtroom was gutted for about a year and a half before even any work done, and the courthouse did not shut down. Just by having testing some positive for some asbestos, but it wasn't like it's throughout the building. It was mainly just from stuff in the 1950s, and it was just mainly just all the glue and everything.
There's stuff currently, I'm getting sidetracked, there's mastic used today that's made overseas, it's not regulated, that still tests positive for asbestos past that threshold, which blows my mind, but anyway.
In Lincoln County, did they have to remove their board?
I don't even think, I didn't have original plans from them. I was just, I didn't work on their courthouse. I was just kind of basing my stuff off of theirs. I can't remember if they even still had their original boiler installed. I know they weren't using it.
I'm 99% sure that there's asbestos in that wall.
I'm pretty sure that one has.
Yeah, and that's the reason for
And that's
the
why it's,
box container.
yeah, that's why it's in a, yeah, why it's totally boxed.
It's encapsulated, we had this and that.
Yeah, well, and that's how that floor closed off anyway, so I wouldn't see the removal of that affecting this floor or the third floor.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure some of the insulation in that mechanical room has asbestos on the mastic. It looks like it does. I mean, it'd be tested, but we always look for it, and that kind of looks like it does. So
I still don't know how they get it out. Cut it.
you have to cut it up, yeah.
Way down to the water, it's all out.
They can sit it out.
They gotta use the.
Where do you want the insulation? Or they use the seal insulation?
That's right.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
What about I know that, I mean, this may not even pertain to it, we have an awful lot of problems with the acoustics in our district courtroom upstairs. Trucks coming by back on, whenever this courthouse was built, I'm sure it was probably mules and horses and didn't make a lot of noise. But I'm telling you, people's lives hinge on what's set up there. Actually hinge on that. And I can't hear it now, and I'm sure people up there can't hear, especially with the truck going by and all that. Is there anything we can do in this thing to help with the noise level outside coming in? Is there anything we can do? If we go back to this end enough thing, you look, notice the windows over there, and you notice this window here, they're not exactly the same. That's original, I would say. That's been put in here since we've been here. So how can we do that? How can we put that over there, leave that like that, and then put something like this in here? How do we do that? How did that happen? Who approved that from the Historical Society?
I do not know. You say a window has been cut in?
Those windows, originally, these type of windows would have been over here, but
Oh, the
when those,
three and three.
it would have been
Wood versus.
yeah, these kind of chicken wire windows. Those are original because this was a record, and so they would have had the same type of windows over here. The side windows on the sides of the courthouse have been taken out and put into storage. So we had the original windows, but we don't. So they were taken and replaced with these kind of storm windows to kind of cut down because the windows are kind of poor shape, and so there was a lot of leakage coming through. So they were taken out, put in storage, and these kind of storm windows are right there. Yeah,
On the
this
third
side.
floor, for those windows, can we put like a clear noise panel inside those?
I think
We
it
would
would,
be allowed to, because we didn't, Andy and I wrote there last time.
yeah.
There's,
Yeah, I think James mentioned it, like that was like what a lot of people did was put like in the courtrooms, put like basically another kind of pane on the inside.
Well, the new windows will be double pane, for sure, won't they?
No, because that would be the original windows that we refurbished.
That's what
142 of them, I think is what I counted, 142.
Yeah.
If we could put those clear soundproof window panes in that on the inside and still have regular windows, but just put
Right,
something
it'd be,
like that.
it'd be a panel on the inside,
With panel on the inside.
Yeah. and just, basically within the frame, and that would cut down on some of the noise, and then you've got a lot of hard surfaces in there for historic courtroom. That's like things like carpet runners, seat cushions, and things like that cut down on your noise.
and if that is a need, we're not gonna be opposed to something that really doesn't change the character significantly, and that's what, a good example of a non-program eligible cost is, because that's been coming up a lot, actually, because of traffic in courthouses, and, with the development I'm seeing in some counties, is DOT comes in and puts reroutes the traffic, because the downtown becomes so, like in Wise County, the downtown has so much pedestrian traffic that they are now going they're evolving to where they're having an outer circle. And that will probably happen here, but I don't know when, 20 years. So, you're in the noisy phase right now.
Same here, we put the loop around town.
I
Yeah.
doubt that will happen, but did you say that putting those soundproof panels would be a non-eligible?
Oh, no, eligible,
Oh, wait.
non-program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Eligible, okay.
Eligible, but non-program.
right. It's
Meaning
not,
y'all will allow it, but that expense, additional expense would be on us.
Yeah, I can say
I mean,
that.
I don't, yeah, I mean, for some oddity reason, they distinguish it, but it's still paid for, it's just not in the, it's not like repairing that window would be a program cost for sure. To put them back where they belong, where they were in the beginning, that's restoration. But this other is addition with a modern material to serve a purpose that's essential to the function of the room.
Going
So
back
that
to
would
the,
be an additional cost.
It's like the HVAC, like this building was not built with an air conditioning system, but it's
Mhm.
part of it's like, it's a modern thing, but it's,
Well, that's why I would think he'd want double main windows,
well,
for energy efficiency.
you've got to,
With a wooden frame, of course, but to look like that, but
well, you've got the original windows, so unless you set fire to them into wherever they're stored.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but that's a program thing that I am not, it's above my pay grade, and
Yeah.
it's a challenge.
Yeah, like on these windows here, with these chicken wire windows, because they were built, they're basically security windows for turn of the century, but it's like, hey, I thought they're kind of ugly. So with the chicken wire, let's replace that, and I was like, I got called out on here trying to replace the glass.
Yeah, it tells us, there's a story, there's a backstory to it, and that's what people are interested in.
Out of all of y'all that are here, I guess with the historical people, how many of y'all, you as individuals, how many of y'all restored in the last 2 years?
Last 2 years. Well, I have been on restoration.
Ma'am?
I've been on a restoration project working.
Okay, how about you, sir? Have you been on one?
Not in the past year, but I've worked on this courthouse previously since 2012.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
And I've done other THC projects as the, formerly the Elite Cafe, which is down in Magnolia Circle Cafe in Waco, that Fixer Upper did, that we had to do because they had a THC historical marker, and I've worked on that as well.
going back to security, our security on this building is, I guess, was put in because of COVID, or the money became available for it at that time. And speaking with our courthouse security officer last week, we really don't get a lot of benefit from it. Just because of the way it's designed. And because Larry said he always thought that if somebody was in the district courtroom and they decided they were going to run away before they got sentenced, that we don't have that option just to lock every door, when there's a panic situation like that. So if we went with a different security system as far as just the door locks as what we have right now, that would be on the county, is that correct? That would be one of the costs that Will was referring to.
If it was, no, it would be a project cost. It's, yeah, that's, we talk about security. We have done security costs in other projects, and it's included. I mean,
Dane, anything that you want to ask from as far as the Cat 6 wire and Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I got like 3 things just to bring up, and one of them is when you talk about security in the courthouse, if that was to be part of. And excuse me if I'm out of line asking this question, but just something I think Roy and Andy are somewhat aware of it. But so the electrical, everything we got is above ground on this premises, right? And so are y'all going to change electrical out in the building? And as far as like our feed from our provider to this building is all aerial, which I'm sure wasn't original. We're going to have to go underground with a transformer for the power. That would question one, is that part of the project cost?
But it's not. Right now, it's gonna stay the way you have it overhead, coming to the building.
Okay.
The thought was that if, I think there was future plans for the other areas, they were gonna redo that at that time. But right now, because those two buildings are there, they don't wanna do an easement between the building if we go underground. So we don't have an easement right now when it's above head, but if we went underground, we'd have to add an easement.
So,
Lord, now.
last year we were having some electrical issues. We were just having a lot of surges, and had Encore come out, started talking to Encore about these. We got poles that were set here between the jail and the sheriff's office that aren't, you know, obviously original. That's how they're bringing power in. So, in the discussion with Encore, just kind of off the cuff, they were saying, hey, listen, this stuff's too old. If you were to have a tornado or storm blow through here, knock those wires down, we couldn't go back like this. Your grandfather right now.
That's right.
If it comes down, you're gonna have to go to transformer.
Yeah.
That's the way they put it back. Now, as I understand, it takes about 9 months to get one of these transformers ordered.
About a year.
The county would have a certain associated cost, which would be trenching, busting out that concrete, trenching up here. They put a dry transformer in the basement and then run out to the clerk's office in the jail. But I didn't know if that was part of the project or something that wanted to be taken into consideration as we spend this much money.
Andy and I met with Encore last week, and what you're talking about on the dry transformer stuff, he said that to replace that, the way they are doing it now, that it'd be a wet transformer that would sit out there.
That's all correct.
Not a dry transformer.
And he said that Encore would be responsible for the majority of that cost. It's just where we would, like Dane said, when we're trenching, and the reason that we met with them, because Andy and I were talking, said, well, if we're gonna do that, I would rather have that work done before restoration starts. I wouldn't want to have to call Encore a year after we got the restoration did, and then have to mess with any masonry work to get in, you know, new wires in and out of the courthouse. So it's more like, we would like some advice, I guess you'd say, on should we be proactive with the way our power comes in prior to the restoration or even during the restoration?
Well, that's gonna be a timing thing, obviously, right? If the transformer's a year out, are you even gonna be able to do that before this restoration project, or is it gonna be concurrent?
And how much will that affect some contractors' bid, you know?
It would obviously go up to replace it. The plan was to have a whole new, from where right now your gear and everything comes in underneath the steps on the backside. It's mounted on the side of that wall that goes through the steps and then that crawl space and into your basement. And so all of that was going to get replaced anyway, back to the outside of the building. But, go ahead.
From there to the outside is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
go ahead.
Yeah, from there to the outside. But then there, we were going to have it set up for future, where if at one point in time we decide we're going to do renovation, we're going to take all this out, we're going to put the wet transformer in and bring that back in. We're going to plan for that, but it wasn't right now. And it can be, we just need to talk through phasing, just when I take those transformers off the pole and change all that out, all your buildings are going to go down for some amount of time, all three. You know what I mean, all of that. So we're going to have to talk through that. What does that look like? But it can be done. It's just something that was not discussed at this point.
Why put a generator right there?
Yeah.
You have to, the sheriff's department.
Now, back to his question about inside the building, the plan was to replace all the gear, and then we were going to backfeed all the existing panels, but we did not plan on changing your existing panels that are in the space and running from your panels to your lights, running from your panels to your plugs. All of that was going to stay. But we were going to put new service and new primaries from your service to your panels.
Do we know if there's electrical, the wiring that's through this building, is it aluminum or is it copper, do we know?
It looks like your primaries are copper. I have not been able to get to any of your secondaries to find out if it's aluminum or copper.
Because aluminum's not to code anymore, right?
Well, it's allowed on primaries. So we still use it on primaries quite often, but you do not want to use aluminum on your secondaries. And so if that gets determined once we're able to open it up, that could be an additional cost.
So something, yeah.
Yep.
Take cover off that look.
In this project, what say does the county have on who we get as contractors? Who decides that? Do we have a say in that, or is that something y'all are gonna do?
You better do traditional bidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Traditional bidding.
Traditional bidding, which means the architect puts it out to bid, and the contractor, it's not necessarily always the lowest bid, it's the most appropriate.
Yeah, you could come up with your own matrix to point system or something.
And so we would score
That's right.
each
You know, look,
contractor.
and then look at their numbers and compare it, and go, oh, there was a $2 million difference between this. I had this on a previous renovation project, it was a church, and the lowest bid came in, but then the second lowest, when they looked at the numbers, like, turned out this one did not even include one part of their budget, and so it ended up going with the second lowest, because when they did the math on there, okay, this includes replacing a generator or something like that, and it was like, that was the difference in the cost, and that's why they went.
So if the architecture is the one that's going out for bid, but then we'll be the one doing the scoring as Commissioner Court?
Yeah, it's your responsibility to, I think.
Will we have a time, is there enough time for us to go look?
At
what?
Their work?
If there were.
Oh, sure.
I mean, is it a deadline, you know, you get the bids in, da-da-da, and then it's going?
Probably kind of like we did on those. We'll open them, then we'll review them, and then at that time, if you want to look at some of their work.
Yeah, talk to the.
Yeah.
Your contact,
Yeah.
main thing to do is once we start.
Is it our responsibility?
Work, how they.
Is it our responsibility to send out for contractors, or will it be the historical society?
No.
The contractor's with you,
Will it be us?
yes, and you pay them when they send out a draw request, and then after you do that, you send your copies of, you know, how you paid them, and we'll reimburse you.
Yeah, but I think, are you asking actually getting the bid packet ready and all of that and sending it out? I think our architect will do
Yeah.
that. Get the bid packet ready, is that right?
Bid packet ready, and then, we could send out an advertisement for bidders. And if you want to kind of limit, to certain contractors, you can do that. So,
Does that answer your question?
Well, I just want to make sure we get people involved that may not have been in, I mean, where the history things are, Lloyd and I talked about this the other night, there's places that have historical things where other places don't have near as many. So you get people from that area, knows a whole lot more about it than just somebody that's kind of.
That's kind of what James talked about the other day, is that Upper East Coast, you know, there's a lot more historical buildings up there, so there's a lot more companies that contract to do these jobs, you know, and he just said there's a wealth of experienced contractors in that area of the United States. And I think that was one thing we were just curious is, would it be, basically, when we put this out, will this opportunity to bid, will it reach people that far?
I'm wanting to reach out to them to kind of,
Get like a roster?
yeah, of kind of the nationally known firm, because when we previous, work on this courthouse has been mainly kind of local within 90 miles of this courthouse. Previous to contractors, we had K4 Construction did the stairs, and Bill Wright Construction did the courtroom restoration, but they're, way local people. They're very local. So that's the people we bring, but we don't have a lot of experience with like an actual.
But we will be sending out bid packages
Yes.
far and wide.
Yes.
Yes.
That's why I need to reach out to them kind of to get those big names in there.
I've got one more question for you. So, obviously, the technology side of things we got going on here, we got switches set down in the basement. When they came in through network cable, they went, because these wires, these walls were cinder block with a mortar overlay. Basically, what they did was ran everything through conduit, which is, you'll see it all throughout the courthouse, there's silver conduit, not in this room, but it's evident from top to bottom in this building. what is your suggestion? I mean, is that gonna be code, are we gonna need to redraw wire, rebuild the network, and need to put a wireless mesh network in? What from a communications and technology, do you guys cover or don't cover?
So we won't cover a lot of that. We'll rely that on your IT being in-house or a subcontractor. We do know that you're gonna need to plan on a new network system because a lot of it comes through that chase on the backside through the courthouse and all of that's getting torn out. And there's a switch in there on the 3rd floor right now, that's all getting torn out. There's a telephone, that's the old telephone, that's going away. So they have to open that room back up and re-expose all of the windows to that courtroom that were original. So that whole closet has to get removed and go away. So we do have 2 new closets and they stack on top of each other now. So I anticipate that you'll want to build a whole new system that stacks in this back corner where those mechanical rooms stack. But you will be building a whole new network.
Now, what are we able to do as far as drawing cable or anything, right? Because we got the same scenario, we can't go through the walls here. That's the reason they want the conduit to begin with. So what are y'all seeing? What's the, I mean, obviously a wireless mesh network.
We are adding chases between every floor because we have to add the outside air that this does not have. So there'll be outside air coming from the roof all the way down, and there's 4 chases centrally located off the courthouse that'll go all the way up. You will be able to use those as paths, as well as the stacked mechanical rooms.
But how about when I'm trying to get them to the offices?
That
That's
or
a concern. One's a main chase, that's, okay,
Yep.
that's easy, right? Now I gotta get it from this side of the building over to this person's office. How do y'all, how does that work out? What are y'all doing?
say that again.
I am not opposed, Scott agrees, we're not opposed to surface mounted conduit.
Like you see above, you know,
Yeah,
painted.
because sometimes the brick is of a particular age, and you just want to leave it alone.
So possibly what we currently have, we'll look at the conduit we have and see if that meets y'all's satisfaction. Have y'all seen it so far? Have you looked at it? I'm sure you have, been through the building, it's pretty evident.
It is. I mean, we're doing it in Polk County, we're using surface mounted conduit, and they have to make it to match, and it has nice
But
corners.
that's all gonna be on the county, that's gonna be this over and above cost, y'all aren't covering any of that, that's gonna be something that
To
commissioners
get power, to get data to the workstations.
getting your systems, operating systems, phones, computers, internet, security, you know.
Okay. Yeah, it gets very specific, I suppose. I'm not sure.
All right.
And now what's in the drawings.
Anything else?
We have different kind of conduit too. I know it's nice and pretty like that. We got some in there that's silver, round, and goes up the top of the thing, and it kind of sparkles up and down. So it's not always nice and pretty and flat like that. Some it's just run around the one wall. So we will have to have all one kind. We would have to all match, or would it be, can we leave what we got up there?
Just depends on really kind
It
of.
depends. Everything.
It's like a lot of plans, like on the, just with the MEP, with the HVAC system, just like your ducts just kind of go
Yes.
everywhere. So like you're trying to clean that up. So it's going to be the same with the conduit. It's like if something's looking at it's like very detracting to the aesthetics of the building, probably rip that out and kind of make it simpler or whatever, and where it's not intrusive and not all these different colors and be painted in the room. That doesn't mean you're painted in the room color.
There's a hierarchy of space. The public space is what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you should be able to have a path that will avoid the public spaces. So you'll be able to be concealed out here in the public, but in here is where you might have some of that exposed conduit. But we should be able to get around this building without having to run across the main entry, run across the main gallery, the stairwells, things like that. We'll have paths to get around that.
Myself,
Thank you. Okay. We're gonna have to work all that out.
Are we gonna make a motion today, or we can go or not?
I think you had some things you were going to.
I did want to
Get back
answer
to
your question about insurance
Yes.
and the escalation of costs.
All right. And how long do you think you would need to get that to us?
I have a meeting with her today at 2, so I can get it to you by today.
Today?
I can give you a like, you don't know, or,
Okay.
yeah, I do know this up
How
front.
about if we recess until tomorrow? And then we can come back with those answers and then finish this up. Would that work for everybody? Y'all don't have to come back.
Okay.
I have one more question, and this may not be anything to this, I mean, I might not even should ask this question, but for the people that I represent in this county, I would like to know how much money it's gonna cost the taxpayers after we get this grant and we get all that, how much additional money are we gonna have to pay them, pay whoever? Does anybody know? That's hard to sell to the taxpayer. That's it, thank you.
How much that county gonna bring?
But hey, to simplify that though, if, once we receive bids in, you know, if it's blows us all out of the water and we don't think it's the right thing, then that's another meeting. But I guess what I'm saying, you're not gonna know until you still gotta go through the bid process. You still gotta receive those bids and see what these contractors say it's gonna cost. And
then see what we
and
can
I
do
guess
about
every
maybe getting
contractor's
some
gonna
more
have
funds.
to out, that if they get in and they say, oh, there's a black bulb over here, we didn't account for that, and then the cost is gonna go up, you know, so. Again, that's why I'm wondering, how long does it take for a contractor to put together a quote for a full restoration like this? Or are they gonna be coming into the courthouse and taking samples, or, you know, I mean, how long does it take that contractor to get his bid together?
I think we were concerned with recommending like at least giving them a month to look at the plan and put it together.
I mean, I would recommend, I think,
At least.
right
I mean,
now,
it's a large set of
is to
plans.
get that clock
And
started.
it's
But we can go out for bid and receive bids, and we still haven't committed to anything.
You know, I would recommend you do that. You request for bids, have an on-site meeting, you know, for your contractors that are interested in it. You come down here, Scott and myself and Jim will meet contractors and answer questions as they walk through the building and do that. And then you get your bids and then you decide. I mean, we do know that tariffs are affecting the air conditioning and electrical plumbing quite a bit. So that's going up and down, but we're seeing that quite often right now. But yeah, I think that's your best bet.
We need to get on we need to get on Encore and go ahead and do this underground with a wet.
I'm not sure how to answer that question. I'm here to help you. If that's something y'all want to entertain, let's look at it. If it's something that we determine that is a later project, let's look at that too. So let's have that conversation. But I don't know if that's an answer I can give you right now.
Okay.
But I think it's something we should look at.
We got a guy that lives here and he's very good and works with us very well and yeah, okay.
Are we waiting on her to get that information back to us, or are we going forward today?
I said, go out for bid. Not gonna know anything.
Until we go out for bids.
Yeah.
Pull the trigger on it.
I think the sooner we can go out for bids, the better.
That,
Once we get those bids in, that's the rest of the information that we're looking for, really.
Okay.
Yeah. Thought so, yeah.
Number 8, discuss funding agreement. We have a motion.
We can go out for bid.
Well, that would be approving the funding agreement.
I make a motion to approve the funding agreement.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Any opposed? None. We'll go to the easement. Grant of easement. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the grant easement between Frisco County and Texas Control Commission.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Is there anything else this morning? If not, we have a motion to adjourn.
You got that.